Day 12. Developing your friendship with God. He offers his friendship to the godly. Proverbs 3:32. Draw close to God, and God will draw close to you. James 4:8. You are as close to God as you choose to be. Like any friendship, you must work at developing your friendship with God. It won't happen by accident. It takes desire, time, and energy. If you want a deeper, more intimate connection with God, you must learn to honestly share your feelings with Him. Trust Him when He asks you to do something. Learn to care about what He cares about and desire His friendship more than anything else. I must choose to be honest with God. The first building block of a deeper friendship with God is complete honesty about your faults and your feelings. God doesn't expect you to be perfect, but He does insist on complete honesty. None of God's friends in the Bible were perfect. If perfection were a requirement for friendship with God, we would never be able to be His friends. Fortunately, because of Jesus, we, He can now be friends with sinners like us. In the Bible, the friends of God were honest about their feelings, often complaining, second guessing, accusing, and arguing. But God didn't seem to be bothered with his frankness. God allowed Abraham to question and challenge him over the destruction of the city of Sodom. Abraham pestered God over what it would take to spare the city, negotiating God down from 50 righteous men to 10. God also listened patiently to David's many accusations of unfairness, betrayal, and abandonment. God did not slay Jeremiah when he claimed that God had tricked him, and Job was also allowed to vent his bitterness during his ideal. But in the end, God defended Job for being honest, and he rebuked Job's friends for being inauthentic. God told them, "You haven't been honest either with me or about me, not the way my friend Job has. My friend Job will now pray for you, and I will accept his prayer." In one startling example of frank friendship, God honestly expressed his total disgust with Israel's disobedience. He told Moses he would keep his promise to give the Israelites the promised land, but he wasn't going one step further with them in the desert. God was fed up, and he let Moses know exactly how he felt. Moses, speaking as a friend of God, responded with candor. "Look, you tell me to lead the people, but you don't let me know whom you're gonna send with me. If I'm so special, let me in on your plans. Don't forget this is your people, your responsibility. If your presence doesn't take the lead here, call this trip off right now. How else will I know that you're with me in this, with me and your people? Are you traveling with us or not?" God said to Moses, "All right, just as you say, this I will do, for I know you well and you're special to me." Can God handle this kind of frank, intense honesty? Honestly, Rick Warren says yes, but a lot of times when you question God or you second guess his decisions, he's gonna get very mad. Because obedience is sometimes not questioning. For me, okay? And of course, he will understand your place of heart when you need him. But when you put him in contempt, when you put your decisions before him, or you make yourself more important than him, sometimes that is very dangerous territory. Like testing him in the waters of Meribah, or just plain testing God too much. There will be consequences. So you can say it, but there will be consequences. It's likely that, okay, you might have some unconfessed anger or resentment about things that we don't like about our lives, but bitterness is the greatest barrier to our friendship with God. Why would I want to be God's friend if He allowed this? The antidote, of course, is to realize that God always acts in your best interest, even when it's painful and you don't understand. But releasing your resentment and revealing your feeling is the first step to healing. To instruct us in candid honesty, God gave us the book of Psalms, a worship manual full of ranting, raving, doubts, and fears. Well, actually, that's me. That's my fault, because when I was in the mountains and I was ranting and raving, I was scared because there were mythical creatures that eat people in on that mountain, and I was scared that they were gonna eat me. So while I was ranting, every single thought that came out of my mind was there on the pages, and it was like a conversation with God like never before. And that is part of what I know, that God has determined my steps and my thoughts, my mistakes, and He controls, or everything is in His control from thousands of years ago until now, because of the Psalms. And it was made for me to read it on that mountain. And I'm gonna tell you why, and it's backed by scripture. But for now, let's just study the word. Where David said, I pour out my complaints before Him and tell Him all my troubles, for I am overwhelmed. So it's encouraging to know that God will always be there for us, especially when we most need Him. We must choose to obey God in faith. Every time you trust God's wisdom and do whatever He says, even when you don't understand, you deepen your friendship with God. See, that's what I was saying. We don't normally think of obedience as characteristic of friendship. But you have to understand, you're not just talking to a person, you're talking to God. And to God, obedience is love. In the last chapter, I pointed out that word Jesus used to hit when He called us friends. Well, actually, Jesus was trying to outdo God, because if you look at Isaiah, He calls Israel and Jacob His servants. But Jesus tries to outdo it and says, you're more than servants, you're my friends. But in either case, even if God calls Israel and Jacob servants in the Old Testament, He also says that He loves them, that He even sacrificed people for them. He would bring them out and carry them all their days until their hair was gray. He would save them from death. He would do so many good and great and amazing things because He loves them. And Ephraim is His firstborn son, and Zion is His pleasure, right? So it's a beautiful thing. God's love is beautiful, and more than fear is reverence to Him, and more than duty, although duty also is a kind of constant love that few people can do. I mean, me in particular, I'm not very conscientious or dutiful, but because of my love for God, then it transforms me to be more conscientious, to know and to put importance on the things that I do or don't do. So we obey God because we love Him, and we're grateful for all the things that He's done for us. So this is a beautiful thing, and that is the love that transforms us. So Jesus said, I have loved you even as the Father has loved me. Remain in my love, and when you obey me, you remain in my love, just as I obey my Father and remain in His love. I have told you this so that you will be filled with joy. Yes, your joy will overflow. So actually what it is love, right? Love is the ultimate reason for our obedience. So we're challenged to do great things for God. Sometimes we're challenged to put Him before social constraints. Or would you rather be popular, or would you rather be right with God? Would you rather please the Lord, or would you rather get a better job? Or would you rather have more money, or would you rather please the Lord? And it's always a question of priorities. And actions always speak louder than words about your heart's content. And if your heart has God in it, then you will act for the good of all and for the good of God, right? So I must choose what God values. That's what the book says. This is what friends do. They care about what's important to each other, and they rejoice in each other's pleasure, and they cry for each other also. Paul is the best example for this particular thing, The thing that has me so upset is that I care about you so much. This is the passion of God burning inside me. So he's echoing the love that I have for God. Passion for your house burns within me, so that those who insult you are also insulting me. So that's kind of how love works, right? So, what does God care about most? The redemption of His people. He wants you to be saved. He wants you to come into goodness and righteousness. And when you do that, also because you love Him, everything will transform in your life. So, when you desire friendship with God more than anything else, then that is the key. Because the psalmist uses words like longing, yearning, thirsting, hungering, craving. The thing I seek most of all is the privilege of being in His temple, living in His presence every day of my life, and delighting in His incomparable perfection and glory. Because your love means more to me than life. So with that is just the purity of my heart, I think. And I just it's like I just want to surrender myself to God. And I think that is the core of faith, and that is the core of worship. Jacob's passion for God was so intense that he wrestled all night until God gave him a blessing. So the amazing part of that story is that God, who is all powerful, let Jacob win. So he isn't offended, because wrestling requires personal contact and brings us close to Him. Paul was another man passionate for friendship with God. Nothing mattered more. So Paul said, "My determined purpose is that I may know Him, that I may progressively become more deeply and intimately acquainted with Him, perceiving and recognizing and understanding the wonders of His person more strongly and more clearly." So the truth is, you are as close to God as you choose to be. An intimate friendship with God is a choice, and I'm telling you that it is the best choice, and it's the choice that keeps on giving. Well, it's not that it gives you, but the giving is the joy in giving. Pain is the fuel for passion. It energizes us with an intensity to change that we don't normally possess. So C.S. Lewis said, "Pain is God's megaphone." So yeah, for me, pain is just a wake up call, a signpost, something that tells you that, hey, something's not right, something has to change, not this way, do something else. It's a sign. It's a sign, and the reason why you're not completely satisfied, or you're not completely happy, or there's something missing, or there's something wrong, is exactly because you're not choosing the best path for you. And the best path for you is always rooted in your being as a soul, and that soul can only be filled by God, by your most important relationship. And some people have missed the most important thing. They don't know God. So this is your chance to be as close to God as you choose to be. Thinking about my purpose, day 12. I'm as close to God as I choose to be. Draw close to God, and God will draw close to you. Question to consider: what practical choices will I make today in order to grow closer to God? So, the choice is yours. Good luck, and see you tomorrow.